Opa! And we're live on MyLiveChef. Just one super quick question. Can you hear the music in the background today? That is the eternal question. Cannot hear music. Well, gosh dang. I'm going to crank up the volume on that, then we'll get started. How about now? Music, perfect. Music, perfect. And my voice is echoing now. There's just something really, really weird. Yeah, am I getting echo still? Or is this good? Yeah, I'm getting echo still. There's something weird with the difference with OBS and Streamlabs OBS that I'm not grokking. Test. Test. Are we still getting a quiet echo, or are we good now? Is the quiet echo gone now, or are we good? I'm at a loss. I'm gonna go kill the music. It's gonna drive one of us mental. Probably this guy. Okay, welcome everyone. We are revisiting an old classic, an old favorite. I do not have the super duper updated recipe card, but that's the page where everything is going to be. There's a very, very functional moussaka recipe there. And the star of the whole exercise are these things, eggplants. Not just for emojis. There's really two things to know about eggplants related to today, things that are pertinent and relevant. One is the skin itself, its outer aubergine color. It's kind of where it comes from. It's got a rather strong flavor, so what I like to do for people that aren't familiar with the flavor is peel half of it off. You're still going to get that wonderful flavor. It's just not going to be nearly as intense, and you can ease people into the dish. If you or the people you're cooking this for have enjoy the taste of eggplant and they enjoy that taste of the skin, great. You can easily skip that step. But if it's the first time you're doing it, I highly recommend, just so you don't shock yourself, you peel off half the skin. But the real trick to having delicious eggplant is you need to brine the heck out of it. You need to soak this in salt, and it's going to get rid of all that bitterness. And then it becomes awesome. So without further ado, we're just gonna jump right into everything. The first thing to do is prepare the eggplant, because it needs to soak in a salt brine for at least half an hour. One gigantic bowl, and I'm gonna need about a half a cup of salt. Don't worry about the salt, we will be rinsing off the eggplant at some point, and then we're going to leave it on a stack of paper towels to get rid of the extra liquid, the extra moisture, so it will fry better. Just looking for some boring table salt. I think I might actually be out of the boring table salt. I'm gonna have to break into the good stuff. The good stuff being pink and Himalayan and salt. And Pazza. Celador, good to see you. Yeah, take the skin from the front and peel it back, and then everything feels better, right? Shame on everyone. Shame on literally everyone. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep the naughty jokes to a minimum today. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I'm going to give these a quick wash, and then we're going to prep these up. And just like all of the veggies, all of the tubers, all of the everything, give your veggies a good wash. Especially things like apples, they tend to be coated in a wax, so you don't want to be washing your apples in boiling hot water, so you should use something like a baking soda, just to help break up that waxy stuff. These are regular eggplants. Regular aubergines, if you will. I don't think I've ever made this with Japanese. I think I've always used just the generic, this kind of eggplant. Okay. I'm going to cut off both ends. Thanks to the supportive, generous viewers like you, I actually do have some gadgets on the way, like a proper scraper and a carousel for food pictures at the end of the day. So what I'm going to do is just peel. I'm just going to trim all 4 of these first. Always use the claw technique. Is that on camera? Always use the claw technique. We want to use our curved fingers as a guide for the knife. We don't want to be holding things and chopping through our fingers. That's bad. Chopping into the eggplant is what we want. If you're ever unsure, if you're ever not comfortable with how the thing you're cutting is sitting on your cutting board, your cutting surface, reposition things, make sure you have a firm grip. Make sure that this thing isn't going to go rolling around, because the last thing you want is to hurt yourself while you're cooking. No, in general, hurt yourself. We don't want that. So the recipe calls for 3. Yeah, Ms. Hello Kitty? I don't think I've ever had a Japanese eggplant, so I'm not sure about the flavor. I don't know. Yeah, avocados are actually a little tricky. What's best is once they're ripe and soft, you just have your avocado and you just gently run your knife into it, and then you just hold the avocado and just turn it around your knife, and then give it a twist and it should pop apart. Then you have the pit in one of the 2 halves. Put the half with the pit side up, knife on top, give it a good whack, twist with the knife, the pit should be on the blade. And then don't pull it off like this. I like to give it a whack on the inside of your, across any hard surface, and then the pit will pop off the knife. You can scoop it out with a spoon too. The safety concern, and I love talking about safety because it's so thrilling and interesting. If you have something stuck on your knife and you're trying to pull it off, when there's resistance, you're trying to balance things. So as soon as you break free, your reaction for a lot of people is to rebalance the opposing forces. So when that happens, you might want to push the knife back towards your skin, which is not what we want. So you either sharp motion away, or better, don't use your hand, use something else, like the edge of your garbage can or your countertop or something. So I want slices that are about like 1/4 to 1/2 inch. That's a good thickness. And what I want especially is to point out that this recipe will do a 9 by 13 inch casserole, but I'm making a small one, so I'm doing 4 eggplants and not 3. So I'm getting to the part where it's getting a little wobbly. Yeah, Celador, you can do any of those. Bash the knife. You can just do this because the momentum is going to carry the pit forward if it's not completely lodged in here. So if you're really, really cool, you can go ha, and then the pit goes flying into your garbage can. You look like a rock star, and if it doesn't, you hurt your hand. Whatever works. When we get to the end where it's a little wobbly, one thing that I'm a big fan of doing, notice this big flat surface that gets very stable when it's against the cutting board. I can just make a little cut right here and magically give myself another flat surface to work with. Now this eggplant isn't going to roll around. This first one is for me, so I didn't peel the skin off. I really don't like cutting into anything holding both sides like this. It's actually not safe. It really isn't. But if I if I'm just holding in place to get the knife positioned so it can start cutting through, I don't really have to hold it, and I'm still good. So this is going to be my eggplant. The other ones I'm going to peel a little bit. When I was only a lad, when I was a wee lad, I didn't mind moussaka, if you will. So back then I tended to just soak everything in ketchup. And believe that my dear mom, who's hopefully not watching, did not brine the heck out of the eggplant, and they were rather bitter. Yeah, Oingo Boingo is one of my favorite bands. Yeah, so I'm just going to take my veggie peeler, and I'm just going to cut out some strips here, just to get rid of some of the skin, just to get rid of some of the bitterness. Again, this thing is actually kind of sharp, so you need to be a little careful when you're holding the eggplant, and it doesn't have to be really clean cuts, because we're going to be chopping discs out of this, and it's going to be baked, and it's going to be soaked in a few layers of sauces. Yeah, you can ask non-eggplant food adjacent related questions. Wait, non-eggplant food adjacent related question. What isn't food adjacent? That's the real question. Gluten-free? Yes. The bechamel sauce, I'm doing two different versions. One is regular and one is keto. The recipes are almost identical. The rest of the ingredients for the moussaka is just potato, eggplant, a meat sauce. Chef Watson, I don't know what that is. Whoops. Yeah, the skin has a lot of flavor, but it's kind of a bitter flavor. And if you don't like it or you're not used to it, especially for kids, this turns them off. So getting rid of half of the skin, give or take, and then soaking the heck out of it in salt will take away a bunch of the bitterness. So we're getting rid of some of that strong eggplant flavor, and we're soaking it to get rid of the bitterness. All of a sudden we have something that's becomes kind of sweet. And the weird thing is melizana is what this is in Greek, and meli is honey. So somewhere along the way, somebody thought that these things could taste like honey. Or I'm just losing really bad translation between ancient and modern Greek. Ooh! Oh my God, why have I not heard of that before? Celador, thank you. That sounds rather awesome. And you'll see that this is starting to oxidize. That's the browning on here pretty quickly. So I'm just going to chop this up fairly quickly. Of course, using the claw technique. I've got a firm grip on everything. The eggplant is not going to go flying. This is light enough and stable enough for me to just hold in place. When I get towards the end, these little slices that I took out make really nice flat surfaces. So this is actually fairly well balanced. The tricky part of almost everything on the cutting board is when you have some sort of a sphere, some sort of a roundy, curved object, and you're trying to hold it in place and cut into it. The first few cuts are easy. When you get towards the end, you have this like little crescent that's trying to balance on your flat surface. That's when you're asking. That's when you're inviting danger. So it looks kind of cute, right? You can cut these thinner if you want. This musical interlude brought to you by Nokia. Proud sponsors of some sort of event somewhere. Is Nokia even around anymore? I lost track of all of the cell phone companies. Wow, that's some thick skin. Yeah, having a hard time cutting into this. Well, again, I don't have to make it look sexy, it just has to be functional. Yes, cucumbers too. Oh, you know what the urban legend for cucumbers for me growing up was, you take the end of the cucumber and you press it hard into the end like this, and then this weird white foamy paste forms on a cucumber, and that's supposed to draw the bitterness out. I have no idea where that came from. I don't think it's legitimate. It's interesting, I guess. So the tarnishing, oxidation, this browning effect, happens to almost all plants when you remove the protective skin, that barrier, and you expose everything to, that's wet, and you expose it to the scary outside world with lots of oxygen. Be it avocados, be it apples, be it eggplants. Happens to dang near everything. So soaking things, immersing it in water is a good start. Lemon also prevents, I don't know if you ever did this in elementary school, making the little shrunken apple head voodoo dolls in your elementary voodoo classes. Oh, Celador, speaking of tzatziki, sometime in the next 2 weeks, I am for realsies going to be recording making a batch of yogurt, and then recording making the tzatziki, and then I will make the gyro meat and the pitas live on one of the streams, either this one or a Monday stream. So if Mr. Shock wants that premium content, happy to do it here. And it sounds, I've brought it up before, it sounds a little excessive. It's nothing to make yogurt, and it's nothing to make good tzatziki. And for me, for drawing the moisture out of my cucumber, I kind of cheat and I break one of my major rules. Oh, the yogurt's incredibly thick. Yeah, like I can, like I'll happily turn a bowl over my head, and I'm not going to make a mess. The secret to thick yogurt is when you strain out the whey, you just get a colander with some cheesecloth, and you just let it sit longer, and it gets more of the liquid out, and that's it. That's the only difference, as far as I'm concerned, between regular and thicker yogurt. And by default, all the yogurt that I make is Greek yogurt. Yeah, cheesecloth, way to go. So my little hack for the cucumber, normally for tzatziki you take a box grater or food processor and you shred up the cucumber, and then you have to just squeeze all the moisture out of it. Or if you're a baller like me in the kitchen, you break out your juicer and you extract the juice from the cucumber, and all the pulp that comes out is cucumber with all the juice removed. Big brain. It works really, really well. It works very well. But I will show how to do it manually, because one of the mantras around here is basic ingredients, no gadgets, simple technique. And for the juicer, you want the slow masticating juicer. You don't want the high-speed blender style. Just going to sprinkle a little more salt on top. So yeah, for the yeah, mastication. I know. I knew I was walking into that one, but that is the style of juicer I have. And if I was going to do a product placement, I would highly recommend the Omega juicer. They're a lot on the pricey side. Mine is, I don't know, 7 years old. I had some problems with some of the hardware that kind of broke on me. It all got replaced. In the States, it's free shipping. I was very impressed with the customer service, and the motor itself comes with like a 10-year warranty. The rest of the plastic comes with some sort of amazing warranty because nobody questioned sending me the replacement parts. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with. Okay, so I'm gonna let the eggplants sit in the brine for at least half an hour. Then I fry them. And frying them is just going to soften up all of that fibrous tissue, all the fiber, I guess. And then it's going to get baked for about half an hour at 350 while it's soaking in layers of meat sauce and bechamel. So in theory, some of the tomato paste sauce is going to carry some acid with it. There's half a cup of red wine vinegar or red wine. That's going to help break up some of the tissue, the fibers, a little bit. The eggplant itself still needs to be firm enough to act like a base or a solid layer. I mean, the potatoes do the real like mechanical work for the base. But I don't want the eggplant to be completely falling apart. Like if the fork should easily go through it, and it should be very, very tender. But when I'm scooping it out, it should still stay together. There's a fine line in there between I don't want it to be mushy, but I don't want it to be hard and chewy, hard or chewy. Just follow the recipe, it works. Into the garbage with this. Aubergine. These ones are a little dark. I had my hair that color at one point when I was younger. Back when I was a rock star. Back when I had hair. Okay, so while this is brining, I'm going to prepare the meat sauce. Again, for a 9x13 casserole dish, we'd use about 1 pound of beef, ground beef, but because I'm doing like 1.5 of these, I'm just going to increase the meat sauce amount, and I'm just going to use 2 pounds. I'm doubling the recipe for the meat, just for my own use today. Because my moussaka is not going to have potato, the regular one will, and my bechamel sauce is going to be gluten-free and very keto, and the traditional one is just all sorts of full of flour. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Just quickly going through the old recipe, making sure I'm not missing anything. I need a few onions, I need a few garlics. I hope I have some garlics left. Uh-oh. Well, I know I have a few cloves of garlic kicking around. And there's always garlic powder. Did I really use all that garlic? Wow.
Yep.
Holy smokes. No wonder there's no vampires around here. I've only got like 5 cloves left. Yikes. Yeah, you can use, yes, kitty cat, you can use ground turkey. Like the recipe itself is layers of fried potato and eggplant, and then some sort of a meat sauce, and then the bechamel sauce, which is just like a thick white sauce, and then a bunch of Parmesan cheese on top. You build the layers. Everything's already cooked. You build the layers. You put that into the oven just so everything soaks and all the flavors make friends, and the Parmesan cheese that you sprinkled on top of everything browns up, and then you're done. That's it. So you can swap with the minced garlic. You don't need the onion. You can change the spices however you want. Like you could turn this into like a Tex-Mex dish very, very, very easily. Not sure why you'd want to, but you could. And the basic preparation isn't going to change.
Did you see how long you brine them for?
Yes, I think I answered the question about the brining. It's going to be about half an hour. So I do the brining. I'm going to get the meat sauce ready. And once the meat sauce is simmering for half an hour, once I started simmering for half an hour, I'm going to prep the potatoes. And then I'm going to fry the potatoes. And then I'm going to fry the eggplants. So in all of that time, which is going to be, you know, anywhere from half an hour to an hour, is all the brining time that I need. Thanks for the link, Wade. Yeah, I will be updating that recipe card today. Like the full recipe is on there. I'm just gonna make it look a little prettier sometime today. For realsies, sometime today. Do we all know how to dice up an onion the happy and safe way? No, we don't? Why not? Okay. We have something round. We need to make a flat surface. Close enough. I want to chop this bad boy in half. So far, so good. Want to get rid of this outer layer without dropping everything. Aha, good catch. I'm going to have a very emotional moment soon. Here's where I normally crack the joke about if you don't want to cry, you can cut these underwater. But I don't know how many people have scuba suits or a pool in their kitchen. Other than maybe Amaranth. She's got kiddie pools everywhere. I thought it was a relevant joke. We've got eggplants. Give me a break. Someone's got to be 12. Allegedly. I'm going to trim off this tip in just a second. First, I want to get a little bit of oil. Personally, I'm a huge fan of frying up my garlic and, oh, brand new container. Dook. Here's some garbage quality oil, just for frying. It's like a 1/4 cup of oil in the bottom of this pot. I'm a big fan of cooking my onions and garlic with oil and butter. Whenever you're using butter, you need to be careful because butter, unless it's clarified / ghee, has a very low smoke point. Yeah, I love the context. Okay, so I'm going to go through this a little slowly, just so I can try to impart some safety here. What I want to do is not quite all the way to the stem here. Make cuts. I'm using the claw. The last few cuts are going to be a little tricky, but the onion's staying in place because this half is completely flat. It's not going anywhere. This part's a little tricky. It's a little dangerous. So what I want to do is make a few horizontal cuts. Some people will suggest that you just put your hand like this to hold it in line. That's not a bad idea because it's what I do. I'm just slowly going across. I'm not trying to cut all the way through to the stem of the onion. What I want to do is get these vertical cuts, these horizontal cuts. I already have the rings built in from the layers of the onion. So now when I cut in, mind freaking blown, right? So this onion half is nice and stable, unlike me. It's going to stay in place, and when you're getting towards the end, you can actually hold it from the root, or the stem, I should say. If you're good with the knife skills, if you're careful, if you're practiced, if you're confident, if you're safe, you can use the rest of this without hurting yourself. If all of the above are true, yes. If not, don't. Just going to trim off this little bit of brown stuff. I can give the rest of this just a quick little chop. And one thing that I like to do is, when I'm chopping up the rest of basically anything, I hold the tip of the knife in place, and then I just go up and down with the blade. Nice and easy. I mean, do I really want to risk cutting my fingers for this little sliver of onion? Heck no. But this, again, the knife's just going up and down. Easy peasy. It really is that easy. My eyeballs is watering. But yeah, the other thing to not do is wipe your blade with your hand. Don't do that, even though don't do what Donnie Don't does. I do that all the time. Just don't hurt yourselves. Again, I'm gonna make my cuts close to the end. And when you're cutting off the root part, make sure you get rid of this little core, because that piece, this little bit here, is going to be very tough. And I don't want that. A big knife. One thing I bring up, hopefully often enough, there is no reason to rush doing any of this. Unless you're prepping veggies to feed a small army. Unless you're really, really, really trying to show off. Going chop, chop, chop as quickly as you can is just inviting disaster. Now, what I should be doing to wipe off the knife is using something like the spatula and just scraping the stuff off, or using my bench scraper, which I finally have coming. Dropping ASMR. Yeah, the frying ASMR was surprisingly popular too. Again, I'm going to trim off so that doesn't look like it's too hard. Like if the core at the bottom of the onion if it looks darker and more like almost woody, cut into it a bit more, because that's going to be really tough. When we trim the bottom off, we have a nice flat surface, nice flat object to work with. Peel off the outer layer. And now, if you want to be really cool, you can just gently, carefully peel the skin back. You can have a bit more to hold on to, depending on if your onion's going to cooperate with that. I really don't see a point in practicing to have mad knife skills. I really don't. So I'm going nice and slow. Nice and slow. Lee. Again, easy peasy. Easy peasy. You want to cut like 3/4, 80% of the way through, so the base of the onion will still hold together. The whole geometry of this is you want to take advantage of the structure itself of the onion itself to make the dicing easier. People have been dicing onions like this for a heck of a long time, probably centuries. I imagine hours anyways. And most things, I mean, knives haven't really changed in their basic function. Object with an edge on it for cutting, that's a knife, I think. Onions haven't really changed for how they work. And we've had thousands and thousands of chefy cooks over many, many hours chopping up veggies. So I'm pretty sure that what we're working with is kind of perfected. Do I want one more onion? Huh. I'm going to stop with 2. Yeah. Garlic. Normally I'd look for about 6 cloves for doing a pound. I'm doing 2 pounds, so I'm going to need, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 cloves in here. I'm going to need to add like 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. These onions, I'm just sweating them. They're on medium-low heat. Again, like 1/4 cup of oil, about half as much of that as butter. Here's the glass jar hack, if you really want. Huzzah, like magic, the skins just fall right off or something. Sometimes it doesn't work. These have been here for a while. For breaking apart the entire bulb, the entire onion, garlic, sorry, shaking in the jar is a great way to break everything apart. When you get down to the individual cloves, I'm still going to need to cut this part. So trying to peel the garlic cloves with the jar, I think it's a bit of a waste of time. I think it's a complete waste of time. Now, there's a few things that are useful to know. If you cut in just about 3/4 of the way through, so it's not all the way through, you can just pop this edge off, and all of a sudden the rest of the paper just slides right off. The reason I trim both sides is because if one doesn't catch, the other side probably will. So again, turning this, and I can just peel off the paper. Easy peasy. What you don't want in general is to be getting your nails in to peel the garlic cloves apart, because then your fingers, unless you're fighting vampires that night, you probably don't want your hands reeking of garlic. Night of the Comp, that sounds so familiar. Right. Right, that sounds familiar.
You're the comment was about more of an intrigue thing about a very valuable old giant bottle of wine.
Any other random food adjacent questions? Food adjacent, that's awesome.
Neither of those were food adjacent.
I know.
I was actually remembering the older movies, the Gene Davis movies, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember movies from that time, and it's so much fun.
They were fun. So I've got about a teaspoon of garlic powder in here. This is good. Just gonna throw the rest in with the onion. I hate to throw this out. It's it looks like such a useful container. Do I have a use for it? I'm such a pack rat. I know there's a ratatouille joke in there somewhere, but I'll save that as an exercise for the viewers. So the garlic press, I bring this up often enough, I think. These holes in this lever shoves the garlic through the holes and comes out as mince on the other side. Now, comes out minced, not as mince. If I line this up so it's vertical, then I'm going to have these tubes of garlic that are not minced up. So you always want your garlic to be flat. You don't want to be making tubes of garlic. I'm just going to squish this over the mixture. That's cooking. My garlic tube. Well done. Well done. Now, you will still see some of this thicker paper that just kind of clogs up this little gizmo. You shouldn't do too many cloves of garlic before cleaning out the innards, because after all, you're just shoving this through, and we actually don't want to eat this harder paper stuff. So I'm going to clean up the work area. Clang. And it's so good for you. The goal is not to fry the onions and the garlic. The goal is to sweat the moisture out. I want to make the onions translucent. I want them to become softer. I do not want them to get browned and fried up. That's more of a preference style thing. If you want your onions to be more caramelized, if you want your garlic to be more crispy, have at her. Just be aware that this is going to be cooking with a pound of beef, and once the meat is mostly up to temperature, it's going to be simmering for half an hour. So if the garlic is kind of toasty, caramel goldy brown, it's probably overcooked. Okay, so I need all my herbs together. Whenever you're dealing with bay leaves, make sure to count them. I'm going to use 2 big Michael bay leaves full of explosions. I'm going to use 3 big fresher ones because I'm doubling this recipe. And I will be pulling these bay leaves out. I do not want to be serving bay leaves, whole bay leaves, in with my meat sauce. Oh yeah, I had a blurb on the blog about the old timers insist on boiling the ground beef and water first, and then draining the water and then browning the meat in a few tablespoons of oil. It is a good idea to do that. Depends on how lean and how fatty the meat is. Unfortunately, this is extra lean ground beef, and this over here is lean ground beef. If you're using regular, highly recommend it. If you're using extra lean, I think it's I don't think it's necessary. Okay, so the onion and garlic powder, I'm just going to quickly show what this looks like. I have some clumps of garlic powder in here. I really don't care about that. The onions are becoming translucent. They're a lot softer. Good enough. I'm going to turn the heat up to medium. I'm going to add the ground beef. Both packages of it. Again, normally the recipe is for 1 pound of ground beef. I'm doubling it because I'm making basically 2 of these. I'll be checking the comments in just a second. I'm putting the lid on just to keep a little bit of moisture in there and to help it cook a bit faster. I need to get at least a jar of tomato. Recipe calls for 16 ounces. Here we have 796 divided by 28-ish is a whole bunch. I'm just going to use the whole jar. The whole jar, the whole can. Once the meat starts to brown, I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. I do want to show everyone the color of this water that the eggplants are soaking in, because it's an interesting color. It's an interesting color. So here I'm going to need some tomato paste, some crushed tomatoes. I'm going to need some oregano, salt, pepper, bay leaves, allspice, cinnamon, parsley, and a bit of red wine or red wine vinegar. There's a few variations on doing the meat sauce itself. Some people like to loosely whisk together a few eggs and pour it into the meat sauce a few minutes before assembling the moussaka, and it just acts as a binder. You can also use the bechamel with the meat sauce to help it stay together more. The fat from the bechamel, the dairy from the bechamel seems to hold onto the fat that's being released from the meat sauce. If there's any left, there kind of has to be. You don't want an oily, sloppy, tomatoey mess of sauce at the bottom of your moussaka, but you also want it to be moist in the middle. And finding that happy medium. If you're using extra lean meat, that's not going to be a problem. If you're using the regular meat, regular ground beef, that's when you should boil it. All of these steps kind of feed into each other, and it really depends on the ingredients you're using. All the ingredients work, like whether you're using ground turkey, chicken, pork, beef, and so on. Any ground meat's going to work. You can use tofu, you can use any meat substitute. All roads lead to Rome, or in this case, Athens. Opa. I see what I did there. That was like a Greek relativism thing. Speaking of Greek, people do ask once in a while how to pronounce my surname. It's not Vlahos, it's not Vlahos, it's not Vlahos. It's Vlahos. Vla, like Vlad the Impaler. And then ch, like your cat working up a hairball. Or if you're Middle Eastern, or Yiddish, or Arabic, or Egyptian, or Greek, or Turkish. Or you just have a lot of phlegm. That's where the ch comes from. And then an os. Vlahos. I don't take offense. I don't mind. I don't freak out. I don't lose my poop when people mispronounce my surname. For starters, it's not exactly common for Greek surname, and the VLA together, it's pretty rare in English. And for the majority of my life, whenever I see people writing down my name, they almost always write VAL. Excuse me. And they'll pronounce the V and the L together, but when they go to spell it out, VAL is very, very common. So I figured at a young age I could just be angry and bitter for the rest of my life, or I can just laugh at it. So, and that's why I'm bitter. I mean, that's why I laugh at it. I'm running dangerously low on the Greek oregano. I think I have to stock up again. Do I have a bag left somewhere? I hope I have a bag somewhere. Ah, there's a bag of oregano. Okay, good. Greek oregano is spicier. It's got actual heat to it. I much prefer the flavor of Greek oregano to regular oregano. Regular oregano is fine. Just like with everything in life, though, if it's Greek, it's better. I'm only slightly biased. Sweet Tea, welcome. Long time no see. I hope you're feeling better. Gaga told us last night that you were saying hi and wishing us all the best. And how that crazy cat can actually mix, it's kind of still confusing to me. I have no idea how that happens. 8 times 15 is like 120, give or take. Exactly. I'm just going to use this entire can of tomato paste. The recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. The amount of tomato is very, very much subjective. In general, a minimum of 16 ounces is good for the can. I'm just going to use the whole can. I will turn the camera over so you can see what's happening on the stovetop in just a minute. Rinsing out the can. Okay. If you will bear with me for just a minute. Don't freak out that the camera is going to go. There is a non-zero chance that bad things are going to happen. And by bad things, I mean really bad things, that the camera freezes up. So I've got my ground beef, I've got my onions, I've got my garlic, I got my oregano, I've got my tomato sauce, well, crushed tomatoes, I've got my tomato paste. I don't want to be too aggressive while I'm stirring this because I don't want to be breaking these bay leaves apart. Heck yeah, more cooking ASMR. I mean, heck yeah, more cooking ASMR. Peppermill ASMR. Need about 1 teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. I need 2 teaspoons of salt, so 4. I need a little bit of allspice, some cinnamon. It's one of the secret ingredients. Again, all of these herbs and spices are optional, but highly recommended. Just a little bit of parsley. I have some freshly ground. And I'm going to need 1 cup of red wine or red wine vinegar. I'm going to go with the vinegar today. Because I normally don't stay stocked on wine. So this is still at a simmer. When I add the 1 cup of liquid, that's room temperature, it's going to drop the temperature a little bit. Once it's back up to a simmer, then I'm going to lower the heat. Notice how precisely I'm measuring these things. This is deadly accurate. Adding some acidity is always good for helping to break down fibers and proteins, helps to spread flavors around. Plus some vinegars are just delicious on their own, like balsamic vinegar. Sign me up. I have no idea how it's not a Greek invention. I'm going to pretend it is. So once this comes up to a simmer, I'm going to lower the heat down to medium-low, cover it for about half an hour. In the meantime, I'm going to get the potatoes ready and start frying things up. The amount of the red wine per pound of meat is half a cup. There was just under half a bottle, and that bottle of vinegar was 500 mils, so 2 cups. So it was just under a full cup. That's why I didn't measure it. When you've cooked something a whole bunch of times, when you've cooked a bunch of things a whole bunch of times, you'll get pretty good at eyeballing things. Don't just use your measuring cups. The last time I made this, there was, I think it was with regular ground beef, and there was a layer of oil on top, or fat. Okay, so it's just starting to bubble. I turn the heat down to medium-low. I'm going to cover it and let this simmer for a good half hour. We got lots of time, because the finished product just bakes for 20-30 minutes, and that's just enough to toast the Parmesan cheese that's on top of the bechamel. Minutes. Okay. Oh, I'm learning English. Welcome back. Bienvenue. Salut. How's school? It's basically Greek lasagna without the pasta sheets. Instead of the pasta sheets, it's layers of fried potato and fried eggplant. Do some American freezer their cheese? No, but some Canadians do. When I go to Costco to buy my normal groceries, I usually get 2 bags of shredded Tex-Mex, some sort of cheddar mozzarella blend, and then a bag of shredded mozzarella cheese, 2 bags. So I'll separate the bags and put half in the freezer. The shredded cheese is coated, so it still stays separate. If it was freshly grated cheese, I would just end up with a block of frozen cheese, and it wouldn't be good. Somebody asked me yesterday about freezing cream cheese, and I don't like doing that. Yeah, I know. And we put our eggs in the fridge. I know, we're weird. A lot of people keep their butter in the fridge too. I know, it's weird. I'm sorry. I know. When I take my cheese out of the freezer, I let it defrost for at least a day, and I don't notice a problem with it when I make my chaffles. But the vast majority of the time that I use shredded cheese, it's just to make my keto chaffles. So it usually just gets heated and melted, and I've never had a problem with it melting. Yeah, I'm learning English. I know, it is weird. It is weird. Just like the amount of space in my refrigerator that's dedicated to eggs, because I have between 1 and 7 dozen eggs at any given time. Yeah, Boots Newman, exactly. That's exactly right. Like, I'd never freeze feta or brie or Gouda or Edam or provolone or anything else. Parmesan cheese, already grated. I don't see a problem with freezing it. You don't like cheese? What? Oh, Kitty Cat, go to my blog. I've got all the keto recipes all over the place, including my keto Big Mac. It's only got 965 calories. Only. But it was 3.6 or 3.8 net grams of carbs. What was the other one that I did recently? The burger, fries, and strawberry milkshake. It was higher in carbs than I wanted because the total meal was around 15 net grams, but the meal was also 1,500 calories. So anybody that's doing 1 meal a day, that was kind of a perfect meal. And it was only like 4 French fries, because those things are incredibly calorically dense. It was delicious. And the strawberry milkshake was a last second creation. I've been messing around with chia seeds for a dessert topping. I know that chia seed pudding is a thing, but I wanted to do it without using coconut or almond milk. And yeah, it's a good banana substitute. So making a banana milkshake or strawberry milkshake with the chia seeds was a really, really good move. But that meal was incredibly filling. And that was with keto bread. So the bun, it tastes like a whole wheat bun. Like, it really does. Yeah. Yeah, it really does come across like well, it is a whole wheat bread. 1 second. Let's get these potatoes started. I'm gonna rinse off my work surface. So I need about 3 pounds of potatoes, which is typically 4 large potatoes, give or take. Thanks, Wade. These guys are a little small. Oh. Oh yeah, that sounds great. Please airmail one, no kidding. The really funny thing is that that recipe can be done as keto. Like almond biscuits are definitely doable. If anyone again is curious about the keto, I don't like pushing it outside of the my Friday streams, but I do get asked about gluten-free alternatives. And keto is, for the most part, very, very, very gluten-free for cooking. I'm just going to quickly weigh these 4 potatoes. Okay. Closer to 5. Well, 30 euros for shipping isn't all that bad. I spent a couple of dollars shipping a cheesecake to the next province over. Sweet tea, some people have a gluten intolerance, people with celiacs. A lot of people with digestive issues. No, like gluten itself isn't necessarily bad. It's just some people they can't process it well. Gluten is just the protein that you can get from, especially from wheat, and that's the gluey, sticky part. Gluten, that's glue is in there. It has to do with the protein content of the flour. So like a bread flour has higher gluten content than all-purpose, and that has higher gluten content or protein content than cake flour. And that's the TLDR for the yeah. I'd love to go to France sometime. I'd love to. Just going to stir the meat sauce one more time. I don't trust this pot. The bottom is kind of thin, and I'm always worried about things sticking to it. I just don't like this pot. I'm going to give these potatoes a good scrub, and I'm going to ask my studio audience if she wants these to be peeled or not. Do you care?
Oh, the potatoes?
Yeah.
No.
You sure?
Like my garden?
Just russet yellow.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, some more potatoes. I'm going to turn the camera off for just a second. On my stovetop, I have a cast iron pan. There's about 3/4 of an inch of oil, which I believe is still clean. I've been doing a fair bit of frying lately. It's giving these potatoes a really good scrubbing instead of peeling them. I'm going to cut these potatoes into discs. I'm going to fry them. I'm going to let them hang out on paper towels to soak up as much oil as I can. They're going to be fried until they're golden brown, basically cooked. But I don't want them fried crispy like French fries or like potato chips. And speaking of potatoes, last week we had a lot of fun with the potatoes. It was like a virtual potato palooza. I am cleaning my potatoes. Yeah, so I'm scrubbing these off, and then I'm going to wash them and then pat them dry. I can't just peel them. I mean, I'm just being a little lazy right now. Okay, that's funny. No, I don't freeze my potato. That was funny. Well, it's not really... Yeah, I like to scrub off whatever dirt I can first, just to make sure. So if you have a stiff brush and there's any dirt left on the potatoes, it's easier to come off when it's dry than wet. You can just wash and peel. I like to scrub the, exactly. I like to scrub the mud off in case there's any. It also depends on how the potatoes are bagged in your area. I assume it's the same as here. We have a thriving agricultural community here, so community, industry, whatever. We got all sorts of farmers, and we have all sorts of local potatoes being grown and bagged. Fine, just because somebody wanted me to peel these. Even if you're peeling, I highly recommend that you wash them, because if there's something dirty on the outside, when I cut into it with this edge, I could be pushing some of the dirt into the actual potato. And the nice thing about peeling the potato is you can see if it's green underneath. And the thing that actually twisted my arm was that a lot of my potatoes from last week were surprisingly green. And I was a little concerned. I mean, I'd see if they were green when I started cutting into them. Oh yeah, sweet tea. I have scrubby brushes for that. Green is really bad. Green is kind of toxic and will make you sick. These potato slices I want to be about this thick. Again, if the potato is getting wobbly on you, just put it on its side. So this way I don't risk cutting myself. Because as much as I love you guys and gals, I'm not interested in cutting myself. Nice and slow. It's not a race. This would be very different if I was doing vegetable prep for a service of, like 3 seatings of 50 to 100 people. It'd be very different. Because for starters, I wouldn't be doing it. When there's little roots sprouting, you can just trim them off. It's just, life and its mysteries and glory. The spud's trying to take over the world. It's when the potato itself is turning green, that's when it's not good for eating. Because if you have discolored sections like this, you can just go in with your potato peeler. There's a reason why these things come with these sharp tips. It's for getting rid of these eyeball thingies. Just stab in and then just rotate the potato around. It's the easiest way. Same goes for strawberries if you're not using the straw technique. If you don't have a good grip on your potato, make sure you're using one of these potato peelers or vegetable peelers slowly, because you can cut the heck out of yourself with these things. Yeah, kitty cat, it's not an ideal tool for stabbing people either, and it's not really funny. So yeah, I advise against it. I'm with you on that. And like always, I want the flattest part down, so this doesn't want to roll around much. Claw technique, it's not a race, nice and slow, nice and steady. Commercial potato peelers are really interesting and kind of scary machines. Picture a washing machine, but the container itself is like the inside of a box grater. This side of a box grater. And a whole bunch of water gets flushed through and the potatoes get tumbled around. And the outsides of the potatoes get scrubbed off with these sharp, jaggedy pieces of metal. It's more like sandpaper. The stuff will wear out over time. They're terrible for wasting water. Our water here is basically free. Yeah, the machines are notorious for breaking down, and they're a pain in the butt. If you look online, you will see the occasional hack where somebody takes a clean toilet bowl brush and they attach it to the end of a power drill in a big bucket, like a big mixing bucket for drywall mud or paint or something, with some water, and they will use that toilet bowl brush on a drill to scrub off the outside of the potatoes. Works really well. Don't confuse your toilet brush with your potato peeling brush. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
Now, in all seriousness, is it a legit thing to do? If you're cooking potatoes that often, probably. Probably. Would I recommend it? Nope. Because sooner or later you're going to get some bristles popping off and you're not going to notice when. And the last thing you want to do is be feeding your guests or yourself plastic bristles. Stab in, spin it around, book, nice and easy. A little bit of discoloration on the end, away we go. Okay, potato firmly in place, claw going back this much at a time. When we get to the part of the potato where it's a little wobbly, just put it flat side down and keep chopping. There's our vegetable prep. We've got 10 minutes left on the simmering. Ugh. That is not good. That is not good. Okay, what I need to do is quickly clean up the mess that I made here. Then I'm going to, before I put the potatoes into the frying oil, I want to towel dry them. I want to pat them dry. Helps them fry better. I go through a lot of paper towel. Deal with it. And yes, I could salt this now. I could season it now. I dress this on the blog too. What I prefer to do is just do a quick sprinkling of salt between the layers, just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to rotate the camera, so 1 second while I... Whenever we're laying potatoes into something whenever we're putting anything boiling, whenever we put something into frying oil, we always lay the thing away from us. Because if we just drop it, if I just dropped it in, it's likely going to splash. If I drop it towards me, I'm risking covering myself in boiling oil. And as hilarious as you might think that would be, I'm not into it. Minutes left. Okay, that's good. Yeah, safety first, I know. Then people say that I'm boring and I'm like, old guy, and they're probably right. Well, this old guy is in his 50s, so here we are. Look how starchy this water is. Scary, right? When the potatoes start turning golden brown, I want to be flipping them over. Those things are ready to be flipped over, so. They're almost ready to be flipped over. You know, Wade, what's funny is I've had some trollery on my stream, and what's funny is I usually play it straight, and then they get bored and leave. Like, kids these days have no game. If I learned anything from Martha Stewart, mise en place, right? I think that loosely translates to put it away, biatch, or something like that. Everything in its place. Gadget of the day. The meat sauce is at 180 Fahrenheit. It's more than cooked. So I'm just going to turn that off. It's going to stay warm over there. Doesn't really matter. It's again, all the ingredients are fully cooked before we assemble the casserole. Moussaka. Well, if you tell us, is it still a secret? Because if it's not, then I don't want to hear it. But if it's still a secret after, I am making moussaka, also known as Greek lasagna. Okay, so once these turn golden brown on one side, I'm going to flip them over. Kitty cat, we will see you soon. Have fun running. To speed this up, I'm going to get another cast iron pan, get the oil on the stove top. It is Greek, it's known as Greek lasagna. Instead of the lasagna noodles, there's layers of fried eggplant and potato. And instead of the normal cheese topping, there's a bechamel sauce that goes on top, which is just a French style white sauce. It's one of the mother sauces. But especially in Greek cuisine, whenever we use a bechamel, we always load it up with nutmeg. It gives it a distinct flavor. For all the foodies in the room, if you want to know what the difference is. Yeah, midnight to 6. If you're normally not going to Greek restaurants, you're probably never would have heard about it. I really do like nutmeg as a flavor. It's I think it's underused, but maybe that's a good thing. Because then when you do taste it, it's very unique and very distinct. How are these guys doing? The reason I'm doing a second batch of oil is because that oil was a lot dirtier than I wanted. We'll pretend that it wasn't dirty. I'm going to do a lot of I have a lot of things to fry because I'm doing 2 batches here basically. I don't want to be boring you all with watching me fry one small batch of fries at a time when I have to do like 5 of those. Oh, I think DJ Nouveau's so sweet. I guess that's the reason she keeps me around. Okay, I'm using a very generic and very neutral vegetable oil. Oh, DJ Nouveau lives with me. If you mean visiting you in France, I'd love to. I wish I had planned to be in California for January because of our travel restrictions. I couldn't. And I had some health issues as well, so it's a good thing that I didn't go. But I'm really hoping for January of 2023 that I can go to California for about a month and hang out. And at some point, I need to get back to Greece for a few months. And if I can spare the time, I would love to go to France for 3 or 4 weeks. And maybe Germany. Okay, whenever you're playing with your fryer, please flip things over slowly, carefully, deliberately. Don't flop things around. I'm guessing my French is better than yours, Karen. Just a guess. I know it's rusty, but it'll come back to me pretty quickly. Well, I did my junior high and high school, lycée, in French. So everything except for English, band. There's this lifestyles course at a couple of university entrants, like calculus. Basically everything was in French, so like history, geography, social studies, French, of course, math, chemistry, first level of physics. C'est vrai. My problem is that I don't know any slang, so yeah, I'm gonna have to have a crash course in the way people actually speak versus what we learn. Well, Karen, I still listen to French shows. I still listen to French radio. So I'm just rusty for actually speaking French. I understand it fine. And when you immerse yourself in the environment, you pick it up quickly. The last time I was in Greece, my Greek was terrible going in, and right away I told my cousin and his friends to be as brutal as they could with correcting me. And when I came back to Canada, my Greek was flawless. It was absolutely perfect. And then within 2 years it was garbage again. And I'm learning English is doing very well for English, so that's good practice for him too. So it's good for everyone. That is not ready. Huh. Normally I test my oil, but I saw some bubbles and I thought that this was good to go, but it's not. I'm going to do a few batches of this, then I'm going to get the bechamel started. The bechamel itself only takes 15-20 minutes. And when I start the bechamel, I'm going to preheat the oven, and then I'm good. What I thought was amazing. Hey, it's Hamilton Gaga. Welcome to the party. It's never too late. Goenka Venkat. How old are you, like 21? 18? I think you did mention your age last time you were on. I thought you were around 20, 21. I think. I'm old and forgetful. Okay, that oil's bubbling away. You can always lower the goods, some sort of metal implement. It's always safer. Okay. Oh, right. Right. I'm going to do one more pair of... I think DJ Nouveau can figure that out. She does know enough French to get that without Google Translate. Same, like, I guess Wade probably Googled it. It's funny because when we're watching a show, if it's in French and if neither of us is paying attention to the subtitles, I'm usually working all the time. I work most of the time. So Nouveau will ask me, what did they say? And if there's any slang, I have no idea. The only downside to this recipe, yes, that's correct, Wisdom. The only downside to this recipe is it is a little labor intensive. Like if you have an air fryer or if you were gonna oven fry your potato and your eggplant, it'd be fine, but you still have to be in the area, you still have to pay attention to it, you still have to keep an eye on it. That's why dishes like this, it's more of a family meal. Everyone gets together because whoever's cooking it is basically chained to the kitchen for a few hours. It's not like this is particularly hard work. I mean, I'm just babysitting things frying, but I'm babysitting things that are frying, so I have to babysit. Come on, Nouveau, guess the age. Yes, she got it. So for the potatoes, that might have been a typo on the number pad because the 5 is diagonal from the 1. Well, I'm pretty sure that I'm learning English is the coolest 17-year-old that I know. So good for you. And if I do make it to France, I definitely have to get together. Hey, what's wrong with bears or beards? The thing that's especially nice about frying with the cast iron pan is that the pan doesn't cool down. Whoops. The pan does not cool down as I'm adding these ingredients that are room temperature to it. It retains its heat, which is nice. Oh yeah, these handles, I burn myself if I touch them right now. Like, I really should have my oven mitt handy. These bad boys should be, wow, they're not flipped over yet. Well, cast iron is, in general, it's superior because you can cook something on your stovetop with the cast iron and then transfer that directly, like a skillet style, straight into your oven. The cast iron pan, it's a lot easier to bring things to their smoke point and add. Yeah, like Teflon by itself has a really bad reputation. I mean, even if it's that Gotham steel or whatever the latest ceramic coated tin is, whatever it is. Cast iron is a lot more durable. It's a little, you have to be careful with handling it and cleaning it. A good cast iron pan will last you a lifetime. So this pan here, the bigger one, is about 40 or 50 bucks Canadian. The smaller one's like 20, 25 Canadian. These are going to last over 100 years. These Teflon ones, they're good for a couple of years of use. So for starters, the cast iron is going to last longer. The cast iron also retains heat because it's just like a big chunk of metal that holds on to heat. Because if I'm frying a steak and I want to cook it at a high temperature just to sear the outside, if I'm using a Teflon pan, when I grab that 1 pound of room temperature, maybe slightly chilled meat, and I slap it on the Teflon pan, that Teflon pan's coming to room temperature right away. Because the metal is so thin, it just can't hold on to all that heat. And the temperature, like the meat's going to suck the heat out of the pan before the pan has a chance to heat up. In the cast iron pan, because it's a thick chunk of metal, it's going to hold on to that heat a lot longer. Okay, are these ready to flip over or not yet? I would not be comfortable doing this in a Teflon pan. You know, I think I'm just good for 2 more layers. Shoosh. If Sudeep is on, are you cool with me going about 10 or 15 minutes late? And again, I'm not trying to make potato chips. I just want these potatoes to be fried. I don't want like crispy, thin chips, because when I dump all the stuff on top of it, I don't want it to break. I want there to be like actual thickness on the bottom layer. Like this piece is it's cooked enough. So is this corner guy. Uh-oh. Time to stump the Vlahos. I'm gonna hydrate first. I'm gonna start the car and take the what to my boyfriend? What? I think I need Google for that. I did not know that was Big Road. And whatever you do, don't taste test these fries, these spuds straight out of the frying oil, because they're super duper hot and you will burn yourself. And that's not a challenge; that's kind of a promise. And I don't want you to burn yourself. cousin, when he was here from Greece, this is terrifying. He would take a thick pan, fill it halfway with olive oil, load in a bunch of fries, fry them like a potato chips to make French fries. Then he would take a steak and fry it in the oil. And then he'd take bread and fry that in the oil. He'd plate it, and then he'd pour the oil on top of everything. So in his steak and fries and toast, that would include about 2 cups of olive oil. Yeah, holy crap is right. Did I mention it was freaking delicious? But yeah, heart attack waiting to happen, right? But the irony is, minus the potatoes and the bread, it was very, very much a keto thing that he was doing. Just the excessive amounts of olive oil. Well, I mean, I don't recommend you drink two cups of, well, you know, any fruit juice with a meal, because technically olive oil is a fruit juice. Think about that one, huh? Okay, we have one more batch of potatoes and then we're done. Maiden, welcome. Welcome. Okay, we have one more. I hope it's just one more batch of fries. The eggplant cooks a little more quickly than the potatoes. Okay. Ah, I have one more piece. Does it fit? Boink. I mean, dig it. One of the many challenges for frying things on my stove is just the oil splatters. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. I want to see if I can do this without a disaster happening. I don't think so. Have to be a little creative with the eggplant. Just bear with me for a second. Yeah, those are crispy nicely. So the eggplant that's been brining for the last, hour and a half now. Rinsing off all of the salt. I don't care that these are going to get super duper wet because we're going to pat them dry. Mr. Slack, welcome. I'm doing two different two different moussakas. One is going to be with I hit my keyboard, thanks. One is going to be without potatoes. I lost my feed for a second. Hopefully, everything comes back. Yeah, one's just going to be the eggplant, and I'm doing two different bechamel sauces. Mr. Slack, is your 3 for rice and nice printing thing? Is that tonight? Or was that last night? Oops, that's fine. Well, I'm going to try to hop on and listen for a bit. Got to moderate for Brian tonight, but Thursdays are kind of easy to moderate for him. I get a lot of new people on Thursdays usually. The potatoes that I put in most recently are the driest. They've been sitting on the paper towel the longest, so they're going to be crisping up and frying the fastest. That's why these guys are turning brown a lot faster than the previous batches. Because of science. Okay, so this layer here, I'm going to show you all of what I'm doing. Just a second. Well, Mademoiselle Nouveau, can you grab me some paper gum? I seem to run out. Okay. Here's what the brine liquid looks like. A little bit of that color it's the third year in middle school. Yeah, we have a different way of counting grades. stages in school here. In some places in Canada, like in Ontario, there's 13 grades before you go to university. So secondary, there's kindergarten, which is kind of optional, and then there's grades 1 to 6, which is elementary, and then école secondaire is 7 to 12 normally, in some places 13. And I think depending on where you take grade 13, some of that qualifies for some university credits. And then different high schools have different agreements with universities. So there's the international baccalaureate system, which is like super duper honors. And when you finish your secondary school, high school, you basically finished a year of university in there. And the thing that's kind of weird is, for us, most universities, like my understanding is universally in North America, the difference between a college and a university is a university offers doctorate programs. That's the only real difference. Because you can get a master's, I believe, at colleges, but you can't get a doctorate at a college. So you have to go to a university. So most people go to attend some college, and then if they do post-grad work, they go to a university. But here, if it's a college, it's usually vocational. And you don't really get a degree from a college, you get a certificate or diploma. And that's usually the difference here, usually. Okay, these are mostly done. What I'm going to do is show you what this looks like by rotating. Yeah, grade 13 I think is only in Ontario. I think, maybe Quebec, but I think it's only in Ontario. And I don't know why people would take an optional year of high school. So if they're pursuing academics, they're better off going into university. Any questions so far? Everyone's good? We've been frying, boiling an oil, if you will, these spuds for quite some time. I'm about to show you what the eggplant looks like, the way it's layered up. Then I can start frying it. Are these good enough? Yeah, I think these are good enough. Again, I just want these potatoes to be cooked. I don't need them to be super crispy or anything. I actually don't want them to be super crispy. Okay, I'm going to rotate the camera, so I'm going to turn. Okay, so up here we have the potatoes that are on, there's layers on paper towels just to soak up the oil. Over here we have the eggplant, which we're going to fry up. These are stacked up. There's a whole bunch of moisture that I need to soak out of these. These need to be as dry as possible before they go into the fryer. The first batch are mine. These are the ones with the skin intact. Woo! Sizzly, lovely. Yeah. Somebody did pay for my fire extinguisher fund. Thank you again. And I'm waiting for the fire extinguishers to show up. So hopefully I don't have a grease fire today because I'm still without the safety equipment. Yeah, I don't have a good exhaust system. I need to have the overhead fan on because it does get smoky in here no matter what I'm doing. Okay, and now I'm going to take, I'm going to make another layer. Lost camera, what? Gaga, I think you're about a minute behind. Yeah, I think Hamilton Gaga was about a minute behind. You're probably on delay. I turned my camera off when I rotated from looking down here to looking at the stovetop, just because the shakiness is it's really annoying. Now the eggplant is frying up really quickly, which is good because I'm getting a little pressed for time. As it is, I think I'm going to be a few minutes late for Sudi, so hopefully he doesn't get too mad at me. I'm sorry, Sudi. The conversation was so engaging. Well, it's still not professional. Thanks, Adib. This step of the frying is going to be pretty quick. I'm just going to finish all of this, wipe down my stovetop, and then I'll do the 2 different bechamels. While those are cooking, I'm going to preheat the oven, and then we're good. Now, for anyone that was paying attention, these things did not take a whole lot of time to fry up. Doopa-doopa-doo. Dooba-dooba-dooba-doo. Yeah, I didn't turn the microphone off, I just turned the visuals on the camera off, just because when I'm rotating it around it's a little disorienting. And the camera will wobble back and forth. It's on this gooseneck arm thing that shakes a bit, so whenever I adjust my camera, for one, sometimes it loses connection to my computer, and for two, it's motion sickness is a bad thing. Now, in my possession, I do have, I'm just going to put down a couple of sheets of this paper towel just to soak up some oil. I do have this screen, which I could use, and probably should, But I mean, where's the fun in that, right? I guess the fun is in not getting splashed with boiling oil. And once the water boils off, then it doesn't splash. The oil doesn't splash around much. It's just the initial placement of the oil. It's just the water boiling. It splashes around a bit, so covering it with this mesh anti-splash guard is a good move. If you have one, if you don't, just be careful. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher handy. A little piece over here. I think so. Putting another piece in the middle. I think so. Okay. Hulu's a streaming service, much like Netflix or Amazon Prime for video. Yeah. On my countertop here, with all these paper towels soaking up the oil, the potatoes go down first, so I want the eggplants I'm going to stack up on this side of my work surface. Over here is where I'm going to have the potatoes, and then when I build up the casserole dishes, I'm just going to grab the potatoes first, layer them up, and just go back and forth between the two. Like, this is what the eggplant looks like. That's almost cooked enough. I like them to be a little darker, just a little. That's why everybody needs a VPN, so you can get all of the libraries from all around the planet. For us, it's kind of funny that we'll be watching a show, we'll be watching a series on Amazon, and then it's not on Amazon, but it's on Netflix. And if it's not on Canadian Netflix, it's on US or European Netflix. VPNs, they're only a couple of dollars a month. And I know, a couple of dollars times 15 different services adds up to a lot. I know that. Excuse me. I need a VPN for work, so I have one on all my computers. I got the big Norton discount package. And funnily enough, the 10-pack of licenses is not enough to cover all my devices, which is ridiculous. Yeah. And the reality is, how much TV do you really want to watch? How many shows are that interesting, where you can't just wait a month or two for it to show up on the local streaming services. Or just grab from Pirate Bay or something. Not that I'm recommending anyone do anything illegal. My reality changed when there was an accounting software, piece of software that I needed to get, and it had the option of torrenting it or downloading it directly from the site, and it was recommended that I torrent it. And I thought, wait a minute, torrenting for a legitimate piece of software that I paid for? What? That doesn't make any sense at all. Torrents are only for pirated things. Yeah, it was kind of weird. It was kind of really weird. Okay, I think we have 2 layers left. I'm doing my best to be super duper careful with the eggplant. I don't want to touch this with my hand directly because it's really hot because it just came out of boiling oil. Doopa doopa doo. Doopa 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 doo. Ba doopa doopa doo. I think I can get one more piece in here. Oh yeah. Before I do anything else on my stovetop, I'm going to have to thoroughly clean it because everything is covered in oil right now. More. Any other requests? I'm here all week. Try the veal. Tip your waiter. Yeah, drinking age here is 18. And 30 years ago, they didn't really enforce it all that much. 35 years ago, they didn't enforce it all that much. I was a regular at the local bars when I was 15, 16. I had full facial hair though, so they didn't check ID and I looked 18-ish, so they didn't care. Well, Maiden, I've been shaving since grade 8. So, but it was never a big deal for me because I grew up around alcohol, so it was never this, forbidden taboo thing where I just ran out and got completely obliterated all the time and did super stupid things. I was done that by the time I was in grade 11. But that's the joys of being raised in a responsible environment where we have like a healthy appreciation for alcohol. Like, I don't think I ever saw my parents drunk, like, ever. I think I only saw my dad have 2 drinks over the course of an entire night. Yeah. Now, I do have very close relatives that are raging alcoholics. I hope my mom's not watching. I'm related to my mom, and she might be one of them. And yes, I know most people are related to their biological parents. A little facetious. Little whimsical. The other nice thing about using cast iron pans is if they're properly seasoned and you take care of them, they're basically non-stick, basically. And you're not dealing with any weird chemicals or releasing gases that are bad for pets, especially birds. I'm not really concerned about the Teflon coating scraping off and poisoning me. I mean, I know it's a thing. I'm not encouraging people to run out and eat Teflon pans. Don't. But I'm not worried about the little bit of scraped off PFOE or Teflon or whatever getting into my food. Again, I'm not encouraging that you run out and do that. The world we live in, where I feel compelled to give these obviously silly health warnings. You hear that sizzling? That's from the slotted spoon. Touching the wet pieces of eggplant. Woo! Sizzling! Okay, do we have, is this one? Oh, this is the last row. Good. This piece fit in there. That's what she said. Can I fit one more in there? Also, what? We're almost done. 4/8. So part of the recipe really should include having friends around so you can chat with them while you're doing this really tedious babysitting of boiling oil. Yeah, don't let the oil get too hot. Having said that, if you're at like medium-high, it fries up pretty quickly within a couple of minutes aside. But you don't want to be getting to the smoke point, so it really depends on the oil you're using. I'm using a very basic vegetable oil. This stuff is, I know it's not good, canola oil, one of the worst ones for you, but it's dirt cheap. Canola oil has a smoke point in the 425 range, I think. 425, 450 Fahrenheit, which is fine. I bring this up pretty often. I'm going to keep bringing it up. The more extra virgin your olive oil is, the lower the smoke point. So, like first cold press of olive oil, the smoke point is around 350-ish. As you get to second, third, fourth, fifth pressings and you get away from the virgin territory, because it's been pressed once before, you get the smoke point increases. So just the generic olive oil that looks like this is like garbage quality. It's not green at all. Well, compare the colors. The olive oil's a little more golden. Looks more like 5W15. But the olive oil I normally use, that stuff's kind of green, kind of very green. And that stuff has a smoke point in the 350 range. So it's great for salad dressings, it's great for adding as flavoring, cooking. The health benefits are great. It's got a really good HDL, LDL profile for the cholesterol. Yep. But I don't want to fry with it. No, it's, as far as the saturated oils go, olive oil is kind of an anomaly because at a glance it should be bad for you, but it's actually really good for you. And when people start talking about cholesterol from animal sources, because you don't get cholesterol from vegetables, our bodies can synthesize cholesterol, and our bodies need cholesterol to produce a lot of our hormones. But there's nothing wrong with getting our cholesterol directly from animal fat with the right profiles. And that opens up a whole can of worms about how people even model the body right now, because we still don't know how most of these processes work. Like at a high level, we understand roughly how these things work, but we haven't figured out our bodies yet. I hope we do one day, but we're nowhere near it. Nowhere near it today. And the conventional wisdom from the 50s about fatty foods, about fatty cuts of meat will clog your arteries and kill you, largely debunked. Largely debunked by the original research. That was, the data was very fudged. And they found the rest of Ansel Keys' research in the basement of the hospital in Minnesota, I believe. Something like 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, so he very much cherry-picked his data to fit his hypothesis instead of the other way around. The other way around being he collects the data, he makes the hypothesis, he gets the data, and legitimately releases his findings instead of only releasing the findings that fit what he thought was going to happen. And because of him, sorry for the delay, making sure that the oil doesn't splash around too much. Because of that fine fellow, we've demonized things like butter and fat from animal sources. Sweet tea, we'll probably see you on later tonight. Thanks for tuning in. And sweet tea, if you happen to be in the Winnipeg area and you want to pop by for supper sometime, just let me know. I'm literally one bus ride away. I'm literally right beside a rapid transit stop. So if you walk out of your front door, you can hop on a bus that will drop you off right beside my building. Just saying. Okay, we are ready. I'm going to turn my oven on to 350. The eggplant is all fried up. I'm going to get one more layer on the paper towel. Bechamel, layer it up, bake it for half an hour, we're done, boom. Easy peasy. Wow, it's really smoky in here. I'm surprised my smoke alarm hasn't gone off. I'm going to open a window. It's also very warm in here today. It's barely below freezing, so our apartment is very, very warm. My longtime viewers know that I frequently complain about the only way I can control the temperature in here is to open my balcony door. Done just about. I would have my fan on high, but it gets very loud. So I'm just hoping that the smoke detector does not go off. Okay, these are done. And now comes the super duper tricky part. I need to move some things around without burning myself. Okay, how hot is this? Super hot oil. Keep over here. Now, this paper towel is soaked in liquid, being mostly water. It's shoveling. Yeah, I was at my mom's dropping some stuff off the other day, and the snowbank in her front yard was like, I don't know, over a meter, like easily 3 feet tall. Her entire front yard has that much snow. Kind of crazy. There's a pool like 100 meters from my mom's house. There's a public swimming pool, and I used to go there 4 or 5 times a week when I was a kid. And I have not been swimming in a real swimming pool other than somebody's backyard for 30 years, maybe longer. I was at Wisconsin or Madison Dell 13 years ago. But I've been to like a water park once or twice in the last bunch of years, but actually going to a public swimming pool to go swimming, it's been decades. No, I'm in the middle of North America, right in the middle of Canada, just north of the US border. The north, east, and west oceans are 30-hour drive east or west, and north, yeah. Now, Lake Manitoba is the size of most seas, so it's kind of huge. And Grand Beach is, it was voted by Playboy as being one of the top 20 or top 10 beaches in the world back in the 80s. I think that was our claim to fame, I think. Something like that. Now, whether or not any of that's true, I have no idea. Let's get the bechamel going. For this, I need 1/4 cup of butter, salé, salted. I need 1/2 cup of flour. I need a whisk. 4 cups of milk, 2 egg yolks. And some stuff. The eggs I'm going to very quickly separate. Is anybody on the stream, is there anyone on the stream who has not seen me extract an eggshell the full way? So I'm going to very quickly separate. Oh! Well, you're in for a treat. Crap sore. Okay. Normally, when I go to separate an egg, what I want to do is break it in half and just go back and forth with the egg yolk. Just go back and forth. And let the egg white drop, and I'm going to save the yolk to another container. And now I'm going to take this white and put it somewhere else. It might seem a little wasteful, but I do want to keep all of these separated. I use... Oh yeah, you can do it in your hands, but if the yolk breaks, then you're going to make a mess. You're going to contaminate your ingredients. Now here's where the magic happens. Let's pretend that I got some eggshells in here. Oh no, I got eggshells in my egg. Oh no, whatever am I going to do? I'm freaking out. So I can go at it with my fingers and try to pluck it out, which kind of works. I can throw it in the garbage, or I can use this. I'm going to get these just completely dunked into the egg white. The shell, for some magical reason, will cut right through the egg white. And on the occasional times where it doesn't let you scoop up the piece of shell, you can still push the shell around up the side and then scoop it in. If you want to save this extra white, you can just pour it out. Oh yeah, this is like total mind-blowing kitchen hack. So again, I'm just going to take the shell, and if you've ever tried to pluck out a piece of eggshell from broken eggs, you know that it's going to move around, and it's this weird, annoying and very frustrating game. But with the eggshell, it's a life-changing hack. And that's why everyone should subscribe. The biggest reason why I like to use 3 bowls, these are farm fresh eggs. These ones are particularly fragile for the shells, and I've had some of these yolks break on me just from cracking the egg. It hasn't happened yet, but sometimes you get unwanted things inside of the eggshell, unwanted surprises, and you don't want to contaminate like your cake batter or any of your other ingredients. So just crack your eggs over a bowl, separate them over something else, put the yolk somewhere, put the white somewhere, and once it's done, transfer the white to where you want it to be. It might seem a little wasteful for the washing, but if it ever happens to you that you contaminate your food with like a unhatched baby chicken, you're going to be really mad at yourself for not wasting the extra bowl. Okay, so the bechamel, I think I'm just going to do the regular one. I will make my own food after. I'm just going to stick with the basic one right now. I need 1/4 cup of butter. So I'll take this on a clean surface, which means one more piece of paper towel. I should buy Shares and Bounty. A lot of these packs of butter have measurements on here. Unfortunately, they don't always line up, but I do know that right about there, right about here, is my quarter cup. This goes back in the fridge. I know. I do have butter on the counter. I do. I need a half cup of flour. I'm going to post the keto with the regular one. On the blog, Wade just linked the Moussaka recipe page. What's there right now is the variation that I used the last time when I made my own bechamel, but I'm going to post the updated version that uses egg yolks and a bit of xanthan gum to thicken it up. So in the base moussaka recipe, it shows what to take out to make it keto, which is take out the potatoes. That's it. Because otherwise it's eggplant, meat sauce, tomatoes. I mean, there's nothing bad for keto in the base moussaka anyways. But the bechamel sauce, I use heavy whipping cream, xanthan gum, and that's really it for the difference, instead of using whole milk and flour. Okay, I need a 1/2 cup of flour. So I'm melting my butter. I need 4 cups of milk, so I have my 1 liter container of milk. What I don't need to do is melt the butter and the flour to make a roux, because I'm using twice as much flour as butter. So I can't make a roux, because normally it's 1-to-1. So I'm just taking the butter, melting it in the pan. I'm going to add my 4 cups, 1 liter of milk, and then I'm going to whisk in the other ingredients, which is going to be the 1/2 cup of flour, a little bit of salt, a bit of nutmeg, the 2 egg yolks, whisk it all together, and then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. And once that's simmered up, I'm going to assemble the moussaka. Do you want to see what's happening on the stovetop? I think you do. I'm going to just turn off the camera for a few seconds while I rotate. So I want the butter to melt completely before I add the 4 cups of cold milk. And then once that heats up, I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. Okay. Cups of milk. Well, when we make a roux, we call it a roux. It's French. Well, you know what it is. Come on. Come on. So this is just above medium heat. Just wanted to bring the temperature up before I add the eggs and the flour. And what else do I need in here? I need a bit of nutmeg. Where is my fairly fresh nutmeg? Half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and I need half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Parmesan, if you will. The egg yolks aren't traditional for bechamel sauce. I like it as a thickening agent. I know we've got flour in here already. It's optional. I like it. Okay, I'm just going to add these ingredients. So here's the flour and the nutmeg. Whisk, whisk, whisk. We don't want any clumps in here at all. It's better if you sprinkle it in. Ain't no one got time for that. Whisking it will break up the clumps enough. If I had cornstarch in here, it'd be very different. I'd be terrified about clumps. And I would be slowly incorporating the liquid, and I'd make a slurry and then mix it all together. Flour doesn't really clump for very long, especially when it's in a very, very wet powder like this. Let's call it a sauce. Okay, and now we add 1/2 cup Parmesan cheese. I know, crazy, right? My Parmesan cheese was kind of clumpy there. Okay, 1/2 cup. Let's see, it's starting to simmer. And when I add the egg yolks, I need to whisk and whisk and whisk and not stop till I'm convinced that it's cooked. Otherwise, I'm not going to have a thick, creamy sauce. I'm going to be making scrambled eggs. Same goes for making custards and French style ice cream. In general, when you hear French cuisine, the two ingredients that come to mind for me, butter and egg yolks. Don't trust your whisking skills or abilities, whip up the egg yolks first. So I'm just going to bring this up to a simmer, let it cool down just for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to assemble the moussaka, and then we dance. How about that? What we're really doing here with the whisking of the egg yolk, we're making an emulsion, less a thin in the egg yolk with the fats from the butter and the milk and the melted cheese now. It forms an emulsion, so it's a suspension of the fat globules. That's how mayonnaise works. That's how holiday sauces work. And at some point, you can claim that this bechamel sauce is more like a hollandaise sauce, and you wouldn't be far off from the truth. Now, if we had any real French chefs in here, I'm sure they'd be swearing at me by now, but too bad. Too bad. I'm kidding. It's what I said is very accurate. I don't know if you can see just how thick this sauce has become. Let me get a spoon in there just to show you. If you've ever made pudding, you'll know how thick this is. Yeah, you should have an idea just from that little demonstration of how thick the sauce is. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Whew, that's hot. Okay, so this is just starting to simmer. I don't know if you saw the bubbles, really thick bubbles. Now we assemble and we bake. I'm pretty sure this is 9 by 13. You're silly. Okay, casserole dish. We're going to lightly grease it. Lightly grease. I could use a bit of oil, I could use a bit of lard or bacon fat. I could probably skim some of the oil off the meat sauce. I had this butter on the counter, might as well use it. Now, we're going to put down one layer of potatoes. want is a complete layer of potatoes in here. It's fine if there's a bit of overlap. So again, the 3 pounds of potatoes, which was roughly 4 large potatoes or 5 medium potatoes, give or take, is what I needed. Want to completely cover the bottom of this casserole. If you want to be super thorough, you could slice the potatoes lengthwise. But when you have your this-sized potato, instead of chopping it into discs like this, chop it this way. With something like a mandolin or a mandolin. And it's easier to make the perfectly flat layer. No one's going to complain about fried potatoes on the base being a little thicker than what they were. Nobody wants a paper thin base of potatoes. Okay, and now I want to make sure I've got all of this exactly the way it's described. Okay, so a bit of options here. We can put 1 layer of eggplant, or I can put a little bit of meat with the bechamel, but I'm just going to do 1 thin layer of eggplant. And I'm only taking the pieces that are, I know there are a few here. That have the extra bit of skin. Okay. There's the rest for me now. Put a little more here. Okay, we can do a second layer of eggplant, which I think we're going to today. Now for the yummy, yummy meat sauce, we have our 2 bay leaves. 1. Fishing around for the other one. 2. You can see how much oil is on the top of this. Even though this was 1 pound of lean and 1 pound of extra lean, we still have a fair bit of oil. So going to scoop from the bottom. I can drain this off. And some people at this point, I mentioned it earlier, I was going to change my mind. Some people will whisk in a couple of eggs towards the end of cooking the meat just so it binds better. If you want to be super duper hardcore, you could, if you had a deeper casserole dish, you could build up a thicker layer or 2 full layers of eggplant. I'm running out of room on this, so. And this is about half the meat sauce, which is, again, £1 pound worth. Just covers everything. We also could have, yeah, I can turn the fan off. We could also have the mix a bit of the bechamel with the meat sauce. I don't think we need to. And now we can go, just gonna whisk this up one more time. We can go all sorts of crazy. And this is thickened right the heck up. Like this has the consistency of overly buttered mashed potatoes, which is exactly where we want to be. I could have salted the potatoes, probably should have. I think there's enough flavor and seasoning in here that we're good. But that was my bad for not tasting everything as I was assembling it. So mental note, don't be in a rush and don't do what I just did. Am I going to say that it smells like it's seasoned enough?
Oh, it smells glorious.
It kind of did smell seasoned enough to me, which is why I don't think I freaked out about not seasoning it. And like DJ Nuvo just said, it smells glorious, and it does. And the smell that it's making me the happiest right now is the nutmeg.
Yeah.
Because even though there's only a teaspoon in the bechamel, half a teaspoon, that's the real secret ingredient. Okay. This, my dear viewers, but wait, there's more. Shake, 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 shake. We want to put about a quarter cup of Parmesan cheese, so we have to be really, really precise with this measurement. This is the accuracy required at this stage is of paramount importance. We cannot eyeball any of this. This has to be deadly accurate. And for everyone at home, yes, I'm kidding. As the lid of my Parmesan cheese goes flying apart, that's fine. Okay, this is now ready to go into the oven. 350. It's going to be about half an hour until the top turns golden brown. I think I am going to wrap it up there, though. Oh my God. Oh, an hour overtime? Holy crap. So there's a question, can I smear extra sauce on the potatoes before I add the eggplant? Yeah, some people do that. Some people will put the potato and then a thin layer of meat sauce and then the eggplant. Excuse me.
Bechamel?
With the bechamel, so the bechamel soaks up the oil from the fat, from the meat sauce. But just having that bottom layer of potato and eggplant, because the eggplant's pretty thin and it's kind of mushy. Like I'll show you. Like I can mush this with fingers, right? It's very soft. So this layer above the potatoes, it's going to be solid enough that I can cut into it and scoop it up with a spatula. If I had the potatoes and then a layer of meat of any thickness and then the eggplant on top, I'd be worried that the whole thing's going to fall apart. But I think the combination of the pieces of potato and then the pieces of this, softish eggplant are going to be firm enough on the bottom. You can make these pieces bigger and crispier and layer them up more like a traditional lasagna, but doing it this way I think is the best way to go. And speaking of eggplant, quick post-production wrap-up. Here's a picture of the regular moussakas. Here it is after it's been allowed to set for, this was over 1 day. It cuts a lot more cleanly, but you're going to dig in because it looks like this on the first day. Here's the regular keto moussakas, and here's how clean the edges are when you cut it after you let it sit for a day. And finally, my favorite picture, this is keto, and it was delicious. Opa!